The artificial reality world is literally one eyeglass away from being live today. N8N has an agentic agent that allows the AI to figure out what to do next. The realm of where we are right now is these AI agents, as they get smarter and smarter, they're going to be able and capable to doing a lot more with a lot of different connections. Behind every prompt in AI, there is a person building it and understanding what to do with it. And even though AI is smart, AI still needs direction. There's going to be a nice way for the next 3 years of really adapting and using AI. Now, for all the people that are against it, you can be against it all you want. There'll be a place for you in the universe for that to happen. For the people that are embracing it and riding away for probably the next 2 to 3 years, I personally think there's 3 phases of what's going to happen.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Amazing Marketing Show. I'm Dmitry Smirnov, here with my co-host, Chris Gray. Chris, what's going on?
Dmitry, what up?
Living the dream, man, and so happy with our episode last week. And if you haven't heard it with Jason Fladlin, amazing show where he talked about being a rapping monk and then making millions of dollars in marketing with some really knowledge bombs that he dropped. It was really cool. So go back, check that out, comment on it. But today we have another incredible guest, Nuno Tavares. Welcome to the show.
So happy to hear you, man. Two of my favorite people. A little history there too. So awesome to be here, man.
Yeah, and we've known you for a little while. But first, I wanted you to introduce yourself. How do you describe who you are and what you do?
All right. So I'm a multi-business owner now. I own about 3 different businesses. I have an AI agency. I have also a staffing agency. And I also have a coaching agency, all doing well over 6 figures. I've been doing it for quite some time secretly. And we'll talk a little bit about that for, I say, probably close to 20 years. And then non-secretly for the last several years because I had a big corporate job that I was doing at the time. And been growing ever since. And I have one model and one model kind of only. It's driving people and businesses to move forward. It's been kind of like my motto for the last, I would say, probably 15 years. I have this crazy obsession of just getting people unstuck and getting people to just move forward, even if it's like an inch, a day, an hour, a walk, anything, a step, whatever it is. Any businesses and out there and individuals that are stuck in anything that they're doing and just helping them move forward a little bit more at a time. I have a YouTube channel, if you guys want to check it out, Automated Marketer, where I teach everything that I possibly know for absolutely free with the clear intention of helping as many people as I can have businesses and support their businesses and everything else out there. And that's been kind of one of my main focuses over the last several years.
You know, Nuno, I am excited for this episode for several reasons. Like you said, we all have shared history here. But when I think of you, I think about your knowledge with software. And again, you're talking about automation. So then tell us, what do most people get wrong about automation?
That it's a lot more complicated than what it is. Everybody I always describe it as a domino. Everybody knows and plays dominoes. And as little kids, we all kind of put all the dominoes together, pushed one, watched all the dominoes kind of fall in a row. And that's all it is just understanding where the dominoes are. And just like every domino game, you push the big domino and everything else falls afterwards. That's like the core of automations. And everybody tends to overcomplicate it. Oh, it's so complicated. No, it's really not. I want to do that one thing that starts the whole thing and then what all the little tiny things. But it's the overcomplication of anything software related. People will pause in fear the second they hit one roadblock. And it's probably the roadblock that is going to probably put momentum forward a whole lot more than they've ever thought. But because they're so stuck on the period's not where it needs to be, or the email didn't go out at the proper time. Oh, this is so hard. And they walk away versus going, yeah, screw the email. If it goes out tomorrow, fine, whatever. Let's move on to the next step. So it's kind of been what I've been trying to teach strategically and hopefully well. And anything that I do is that just don't worry about it. Just kind of launch it out and don't overcomplicate it. Step 1, step 2, step 3, then grow to step 4, then grow to step 5. No reason to overcomplicate anything that's out there. But overcomplication is the number one biggest issue that everybody does with anything in software or automations related.
It seems like that is a big thing that everyone's wanting to hire out because of that. Well, it's too complicated for me. Someone else has to do it. Well, and that's probably not the case.
I would say majority of the time, we have an 80-year-old woman in our group that now has a newsletter automation, has a newsletter, has an automations business, and she started learning with us about a year ago.
You know the funny thing about meeting you a few years ago now at this point, but I'd go to these different masterminds, marketing and business and whatever, and they're like, "Oh, by the way, have you met our AI expert Nuno? Have you met our Go High Level expert Nuno?" And I'm like, every single one of these
Email
masterminds,
expert.
you are their go-to expert, which is pretty amazing. How did this come to be?
So it kind of goes a little bit into the kind of upbringing, and we were just talking about this, which is ironically funny, but I am not the smartest dude. I am 100% not. I actually consider myself, I don't know if it's like below intelligence of what I'm surrounding myself with, but I am ridiculously like persistent. I will show up every day. I will fail every day. I will fall every day, and I will just I'm definitely the guy that I will keep shoving that round block into the square hole. It'll eventually fit. Not that that's the smartest way, but I definitely have a really hard time just kind of not giving up in that sense. Because I had a learning disability when I never even knew I had learning disabilities. Came from a poor educational system. The school systems where I grew up at the time were just, the students were a lot, and you had like no like buddy with you. My parents were immigrants, and they had barely any education that really kind of carried through. So you kind of left to your own devices. There were really no extra help and extra credit because you wouldn't want to stay late after school because you get your butt kicked if you were left too late and it was dark outside. So you had to like run home. So it was like a little bit of a different strategy of like how you learned back then. And it was, you kind of had to like figure things out on your own. So your problem solving skills, depending on where you are, kind of like just surpassed. And I got really good at just problem solving. And the problem solving was keep doing it, keep figuring it out, keep failing and everything else. So, but that's what it was. Nowadays, it's like whenever I want to figure something out, I just do. I just like, well, get it wrong, keep trying, get it wrong, keep trying, and this goes on for months, 2 months, 3 months, 4 years. It really, there is no time limit until I finally, it just all of a sudden goes, oh, I get it now. And I got to be honest, the reason why I think, I don't know about experts in all things, but the reason why I'm really good at a lot of things is because I've failed so many times in that, and I had so many at-bats where I'm going in there and I'm consistently either fixing somebody's issue or, oh, holy crap, we just took this thing on, and this is all the stuff that's going on, and being hands in it and helping my team, myself, or whatever it is, and us just trying to figure out different ways to go around it. And I think that also goes back again to that same childhood kind of experience. We didn't have a lot growing up, and because we didn't have a lot growing up, you had to like make do with what you have. And even when I was like in the corporate space and I was still having a little side gig, I was always like, okay, well, how do I optimize everything that I have? Because I didn't want to waste more money because we were still growing our funds and trying to build everything that we had. And then how do I not like compromise everything that's going on at work? And it would be like one software because that's all I could afford. And I just said, like, how much can I use this one software for and break it and get it to use it into its max ability before I moved on. And that's what happened. It's funny, Chris mentions email, AI, and everything else. Well, that's how it was. I first got my first software when I started the business, and I'm like, well, I got to make this thing work. I just spent like all this money on it. I got to make it work. So I made it work. It was ugly. It broke down all the time. Everything happened. I made it work. I just made it work all the time to the point that I worked it better than the people that developed it. You know what I'm saying? In some of the softwares that we had early on, because I guess I was more desperate or more, I guess, passionate about making it succeed because I needed it. I needed it for survival. I needed it for like the next thing that I needed to do and so forth. And then it kind of like trickled from one thing to another. And I just like didn't let go of the other skills. I just kept developing those over time. But it was, I think it's more of like a survival need. And mentally, it's like I don't even need a survival need anymore. But in my brain, I'm always in survival mode. So it's like, it's kind of the way it works. It's like that high dopamine hit of like, it's all going to end tomorrow. It's not, but my brain always thinks it is. So I just have to become an expert in that one thing in order to move forward.
You got to become an expert in one thing, but then you were like, now you're a freaking software, what is those multi-tools, those little old, switchblade things that have all those different tools on it. What are they called again?
Swiss Army.
Swiss Army knife. Thank you.
That's
You're a software
example, yeah.
Swiss Army knife, quite literally. And my question to you is, there's all these different tools, all these different softwares to use. What are the handful of softwares that could be used to automate most any process?
Oh, wow, so I'll tell you right now, on the rise of like keeping things of like consideration of money, how much money you have, how much time you have, and how much each tool can do. And a lot of tools nowadays in softwares, it's all about the all-in-ones. I don't know if you guys noticed like a theme. All softwares are just trying to become like the all-in-one solution. You got HubSpot, you got High Level, you got Salesforce, you got all these kind of crazy things that are going on. Zoho, I mean, I literally can go down the list. All of them are trying to become this all-in-one. So based on where your financial situation is, look, if you got $1 bazillion, Salesforce is the way to go, but you need like 17,000 developers to use it. Again, corporate building, like corporate statuses, multi-million-dollar businesses, Salesforce is the way to go. You're like in that upper million and you're doing really well and you need to scale your business and you need massive tracking and data and all that. HubSpot is like the next second best. Everybody else falls into like the same kind of categories, and it's like the best of those that kind of work out really well, right? I dumped like a lot of time and money and effort into High Level because I really like that software because, again, for the level that we're at, it's an all-in-one Swiss Army knife of marketing and a lot of connections that it can have with AI tools and different tools and everything else. On top of that, it has a very open API. And one of the best things about that particular software is that it has a customer base that influences what happens with the software. So it's the only company that's out there that I've ever heard of that actually like says, what do the customers want? They have an upvote board, and based on the upvotes, that's what gets worked on. And that's the next feature that they work on, which go to any of those other ones I mentioned, that is not the case. It's more like centered around like how much more money are we going to make with this one thing versus having that overall, let me hear about what's going on with the individuals. So that's the Swiss Army knife of all tools to help save money and to do all the things you need to effectively run your business. Now, as far as automations and a lot of things that's going on, there is a software called N8N. It's kind of basically a connector that connects all kind of automations. The reason why it's very important right now in the state that we are right now as of like this call and this podcast is that N8N has an agentic agent that allows the AI to figure out what to do next. It's one of the only ones. So literally you say, go write me an email. It knows what an email is. It will go write the email. It will figure it all out with very to little, no effort from you other than the setup piece. Very different than what's out there now. Make, Zapier, those are other interconnecting tools that do a lot of automations. A lot of people are familiar with those. Those are all kind of in the rise because they're all introducing agents. Agents being the person in the middle that's like the operations manager of your work. You literally, to this day, as we speak of now, and I literally just created it about 2 days ago, I have what I call my Donna agent. For anybody that's a suit fan, Donna was like the ultimate like secretary. She did everything. She was the best executive assistant in the world because she always thought of what the person needed and anticipated it. So what this agent does is it goes to the agent, and if I say, hey, do me a favor, Slack my team, I forgot to give them this message, it will write the message of what I said, and it knows to put it into Slack. Meaning there's no command in there, go to Slack. I just say, give a message to my team, and it figures it out that my team is in Slack. If I say, hey, go book an appointment with my friend at Nuno 1895, blah, 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 it will write an email because it knows that that is the person that I'm conveying to. So the realm of where we are right now is these AI agents, as they get smarter and smarter, they're going to be able and capable to doing a lot more with a lot of different connections. And not getting super technical, but kind of just getting everybody who's listening, just want to read up on something really crazy. You guys remember like the invention of the USB, right? Does anybody remember the USB? Do you guys remember when back in the day when you had to install a printer? I'm aging myself here a little bit. I hope not.
Oh, yeah.
You remember how big that printer cable was? You had to jam it in the back. It never worked. The disconnect, it was this huge. It cost like 400 pounds to like lift. It was a big deal. And then you remember that your keyboard was a different thing. It had little tiny switches and you had to click in the back. It was circular. Well, somebody along the way says, screw all this. We're just going to go to USB. USB was a massive game changer in the computer world. Well, imagine you have AI, right? And it needs to connect to another software, another system. And somebody out there created the USB of AI called MCP. So now MCPs are little servers that are basically USBs for the AIs to connect to. This is the next evolution of where we're in right now because all your AI has to do is know what to do and then connect to all these different things just using a very common USB connection. And all you got to do is get the USB port and connect it and then let it go. So, and that's where we are in the stage that we are right now, that we are developing MCP servers to create these USBs. So if today, Chris, you wanted to create like an assistant or an agent or AI that wanted to do things on its own and now has the ability of doing that with very little minimal effort from you. So
that's pretty badass. Okay, let's get existential for a second here. Everyone's got an opinion on the future and whatever else, but I think you, Nuno, we can say you've got a pretty qualified opinion considering your background and everything you know about what's going on. But give us a little like take on where do you think everything is going in the world of employment and jobs and automation, and what are we all going to do?
I mean, so yeah, there's massively a lot of opinions on this. So here's my take. I think that there's going to be a nice wave for the next 3 years of really adapting and using AI. Now, for all the people that are against it, you can be against it all you want. There'll be a place for you in the universe for that to happen. For the people that are embracing it and riding the wave for probably the next 2 to 3 years, I personally think there's 3 phases of what's going to happen. And then I think there's going to be a retro that's going to happen. I think first phase that's coming up right now is this true agentic agent, which I believe we are in right now. I think this is a massive threshold that's about to happen. And I think the people that are in it are playing with it, that are going to jump on top of it really early on, I think can ride a good wave for about a year to 2 years to really take advantage of whatever financial opportunities are there. I think the second wave, and the one that everybody's sleeping on, is the artificial reality world. The artificial reality world is literally one eyeglass away from being live today. You guys have seen it in movies. People put on those futuristic glasses. They're watching movies with their kids. They're ordering their phones. Somebody's coming up there. It's putting up their name and everything else. They've already designed glasses that are $100. All they got to do is figure out the battery life, and they got to make the glasses thinner, and everybody and their mom is going to be wearing glasses and doing everything on their businesses here. The next breakthrough is going to be the artificial reality and AI meet. When that happens, that's going to be another wave of, I would say, ease of doing things, right? Third wave is definitely going to be robotics and AI. That's already down here too, but it's being a little quiet because I think AI is drowning a little bit of that voice. But here's the thing that everybody has to understand. Behind every glass is going to be a person. There's going to be a person. Behind every prompt in AI, there's a person building it and like understanding what to do with it. And even though AI is smart, AI still needs direction. Direction in the sense of what needs done, the creativity, the building, the business, the sale, whatever it is. Even though they can sell on their own, there's still somebody behind, well, what are they selling and what do they need for? So there's always this need for a human being to be there. Robotics, it will only do certain things. Like the odds of robotics doing plumbing, cooking, like high-end cooking, meaning where it's creative coming up with ideas and doing its thing. And on top of the things like plumbing and all of that, there's going to be a very long while before robotics have that kind of advancement. 5 years, maybe 6 years, but regardless of which, AI and robotics meet, that's going to be another threshold. Then I think this is what already is going to start happening probably in the next 2 to 3 years. All of a sudden, we're going to start creating a massive population, and humans are going to be like bell bottoms. All of a sudden, the NFTs that start happening, everybody doesn't know what an NFT, it's like a digital token of like something that's created digitally. I think there's going to be a PFT, which is like, I want proof that this individual was the one that wrote, painted, created, cooked, made, and now it's going to have, whenever something's made by a person, it's going to have some kind of record stating that it was by a person in AI. I think that revolution is going to come in maybe in the next 2 to 3 years, and that's going to be another wave that you can ride in the opposite direction. I don't think it'll ever win footing again, but I think it'll just be something that'll just become all of a sudden a craze. You know, hey, where's your PFT token? Did you create that manually? Where's your proof? You know, did Chris?
That's kind of like the new Made in the USA or something.
Exactly, and I think that that's going to be at some point. I wouldn't say it's a revolt. I just think it would be a person missing. No, I want a human. I want a human doing this. I want a human interaction. I want a human painting. I want a human food created by a human. I think that at some point in time it will reverse, like everything else does. It's like markets. Market rise and fall, and this is a trend that will go up and all of a sudden it'll go back. You know what I'm saying? So I think at some point in time, you capture those 3 major revolutionary points that I think are going to really change the way the universe is. Then I think it's going to start, people are going to want and crave the human because it's going to be so much robotics that at some point in time, it's going to get exhausting.
Nuno, we are in the future. Let's go back to the past here, and specifically your past.
Sure.
Nuno, you have all these businesses, you're doing well, you know all the software. Life is good right now. That wasn't always the case. You came from the shit. You crawled out of it. Now you're here. And so if you don't mind, with what you feel comfortable sharing, what is the shit that Nuno came from?
Oh, wow. Probably. So the funny thing about all this is and what I want you guys to realize, I'm the most unlikely entrepreneur that you would ever meet. I literally growing up, the one thing I always said to myself, I will never be an entrepreneur. I will never own my own business and everything else. Um, I came from, I wouldn't say a broken home. I came from a pretty rough home. I also came from a neighborhood that had a lot of broken homes. So my comparison, my story is nowhere near what I've experienced with friends that I grew up with that literally everything from jailed fathers and mothers to drugs and people passing and all kinds of things, gunshots, people dying. Like that's kind of like my initial early world. And my give you a kind of quick little background. I came here at a very young age. My father came before us. I never met my father until I was 5 years old. And then my father kind of came before us to try to get a green card. We left Portugal. We came here. He stayed here for 5 years, worked at restaurants late at night. I mean, we heard horror stories of some of the things he went through when he first got here. And what's crazy is like, I think I shared this with you, Chris, and it's like not a very open concept, but I had a lot of resentment for my father for a whole bunch of things that happened between probably the ages of like 22 to the ages of like 5. I know that's a pretty long time frame. My father had a lot of anger, a lot of anger that transformed into all kinds of things. Definitely made my life a lot harder. Self-confidence was always an issue with me. Um, Feeling loved was always an issue with me. Like I never felt like I deserved anything. It was always, anytime I made it successful, I always thought something wrong was going to happen. That's why I meant what I said. Like I never thought I was going to live past a certain age. I always thought I was going to die. And I was also doing a lot of messed up things back in the day because like when you're in what you call this shit, right? You're in that moment. There is no, you never think you're going to be able to achieve anything because you're just so stuck in trying to survive your current environment that it's very hard for you to think outside the box. Like I'm not going to be anything better than what I am right now. And then when you surpass your friends and your family, like it's all of a sudden a weird feeling. It's like, oh crap, like I've now extended as far as I can go. So growing up in that environment, I think it's very trauma filled, and I think you start living. And I talk about this all the time. And it took a long, long, long time. And for anybody out there listening to this, man, I hope this inspires you. Look, you don't know the life you're in until you go on the outside and see what you actually are. And it takes a very long time and a lot of brutal learnings for you to do that, and a lot of like self motivation that you got to understand. At the end of the day, it's only you, and you got to pull yourself out of whatever crap you're in, whatever mindset you're in, whatever thing you're trying to achieve. But the crazy part about growing up, it was always about problems. It was like, how am I going to get home without my butt being kicked, right? How is my mom working 3 jobs? Who's going to cook dinner tonight because she's not home to cook? I was a latchkey kid. You walked yourself at 10 years old. You were walking yourself to your home and you were cooking your own food. There was like, I burned the house down once. Like it was crazy. Like you just figured it out. Like I'm hungry. Oh, you hungry? There's eggs and I think it's meat, and you're going to try to cook it because you have no idea what the hell you're doing. I'm totally not exaggerating. And I'm telling you, there's people out there, they'll vent. But then I had like friends of mine at 10 years old that were taking care of their little brother that was like 4 years old, and they were feeding them. And I'm like, oh my God, how does this all work? But then you just think it's normal. So then you grow up like that, and then you see your mom like busting her ass. My mom worked 3 jobs. She worked factory jobs. To this day, my mom has rheumatoid arthritis. Her hands are completely ruined. They get lock up on her and everything else. I actually take care of her now. I build an addition in my house now, and she lives rent-free, happily in this little square foot apartment. I bought her car. I'm about to buy her another one because it broke down. And, I have that ability. But you're talking about a person who left a great paying job in the country she was in, an incredible house, to make a move for me to be with my father. And then us coming here and going to a bunch of turmoil because in those 5 years, something happened to my dad. Something radically changed him, made him angry, could have been not being there by himself and being with us. And I've done a lot of research. What I came to find is that my dad, before he left, and even while he was here, everybody loved my dad. Like you would walk in and he was like the mayor of like the town. And I'm like, how is this guy like this? And then at home, he's a different animal, And then I came to find that he was like a war hero. Like he did all these crazy things, man of massive accomplishments, who had to give up everything, go from one country to another to create an opportunity for what he believed was better for us, for what he believed, right? There could have been, could have not been, and fought for 5 years by himself to try to figure that out with no help. And nowadays we look back, man. I mean, like, look, no offense, but self-help was unexistent back then. You cried, you mulched, you didn't work hard, you didn't do the things you were looked upon, you didn't weren't accepted. It wasn't a man thing to do, and God forbid you throw a little bit of culture in there, man. It might like you know you got to be a man in certain cultures, you know, and like unfortunately our culture is very similar to that, and that's all it was. You compound that on one individual with no support, no help, left to your own devices. What are the odds? You know what I'm saying? So all that to say, right? I watched my father be the greatest salesman I've ever met in my life. To this day, I've never met anybody that can sell like my father. My father can walk in a room and sell everybody. You wouldn't even need the thing that he's selling. I used to watch it live and be completely mystified. But when it came to business, holy smokes, he was atrocious. He was the worst person ever. I used to fix his books, and within minutes later or days later, it was all back in the red again. And the problem is that he just didn't have that. And then he compiled that with all that. I told myself, I will never in a million years be an entrepreneur. Never, ever, ever. I will never be part of that. So what did? I jumped into the corporate ladder and I just started climbing it. But guess what? When you're souls like we are, there's this feeling of unfulfillment that literally will bury you if you don't let it loose. And mine was always, I'm meant for something more. And I was always kind of being, I wouldn't say stop. My career was great. I loved every company that I worked for. I was treated great. I left in good vibes and everything else. To this day, I talked to a lot of people in there. There were great companies. I worked for Capital One, Bank of America. I worked for Airmark, Sedesco. Those were all great companies. Climbed the ladder in each one. Started at the lowest and then just kind of climbed up. Because why? I felt unfulfilled, so I kept chasing the next big thing, the next big thing, and not realizing I don't know what the hell is going on. I don't think there's ever going to be a cap. And then my father got sick first time with cancer, and I had to get like a secondary job. Now, when you work the corporate structure, I maxed out on all the bonuses. There's nothing else you can make. There's no extra cash that comes in. And all of a sudden you get a cancer bill. I mean, like, holy smokes. Anybody that's ever gone through that tragedy, it's like, you're talking about a couple $100,000 like lingering around. And on top of it, during that time frame, my mom's insurance got canceled. So we went from like a $10,000 bill to a $120,000 bill in less than a year. And my parents at the time, they were making basically maybe 30, 40 grand a year. So I started taking side gigs. I did everything that you can possibly imagine under the sun. I repaired phones at home. I started creating websites. That's how I got into a little bit of the agency work. I started doing everything that I possibly can to earn as much money I can, on top of starting to get married, building my own family, getting my own house and everything else, and trying to manage, well, where was all this money coming from? So secretly, I was working 2 jobs in the corporate structure where I really couldn't work 2 jobs. So the second my drive started at 4 p.m., all the way to 6 p.m. by the time I got home, and that's just a drive, I was doing calls. I was doing anything that I possibly could on the phone. I learned how to do things on the phone that you would be amazed that I could do, because that's the only way I could do it. I do it in the bathroom. I do it in closets. I do it anywhere I can sneak like a 5-minute, like, let me go build a website real quick. And it started getting into that. And then that just started becoming such a habit that for 14 years I did that. 14 years of like 3 to 4 jobs, never any weekends and everything else. And what happens when you start doing that? One, you burn the freaking hell out. Like, you just burn out because there's only so much a human being can take on. The second, which was wild, is that, man, I was starting to become a father. And the problem was, I made a vow to myself that I would never be the father that, like, and again, not to his own doing. And I've had a lot of forgiveness, and we talked about Chris, because here's the lesson that everybody needs to learn. Because we suppress so much and we don't know that we're kind of screwed up, there's levels of like all kinds of stuff buried. And every time you uncover a barrier, it's like an anchor being released and you taking off. And that's what everybody doesn't realize. You're not at your best self because there's all these invisible anchors that you have no idea that you have. And I went through, like, I think it was close to like, I can't even tell you how many radical boot camps and all these other crazy things that I am. All just to realize that there was all these things holding me back. My father being probably the biggest anger, the resentment I held. Again, because I didn't understand. And it's his fault, not mine. And again, at the end of the day, all I learned with all those anchors is at the end of the day, you're holding onto the anchor and you're the problem. And that's like the biggest monumental, like, oh my God, I figured it out kind of thing. And even then, to this day, there's always a layer that I don't even know it's there. But you released one anchor and it propelled. You released another anchor and propelled. I'm like, holy crap. And then when you start realizing a lot of the self crap that you've like buried or not facing or just pushing yourself down on, one of those layers kind of release it. And there's different mechanisms to release those layers. But I'm telling you, the second layers, that's why you see guys that are about banking, who tell me if you don't know this story. I'm living in a car. I've lost my job. A year later, this guy's a freaking millionaire. Because at that point in time, you got nothing left. All your anchors are released. You're at zero. There's the only thing holding you back is you. Now you have two choices. You either sink and you perish, or you go all in and you just bug out and you make it work. And that's what happens. And I think it's because like at that point in time, the reason you always hear at the low bottoms to get to your high is because you're just like, what else are you going to do? What else are you going to take? I got nothing left. At one point in time, I was living in a car. I was living in a car for like 7 days. I was like, oh shit, what do I do now? What do I do now? Like I can keep living in the car or I can get out of living in the car. And then you don't get out of the car tomorrow and all of a sudden walk into a freaking mansion. No, all right. Well, first I had to find a place to live. I found a room. Okay, well, I found a room. It had nothing. Literally nothing. I'll never forget. I'm like, where do I get a mattress? Oh, look, there's a dumpster and there's a mattress right there. All right, now I got a mattress. Wow. Awesome. Well, I need food. I worked in the restaurant. Cook. I went to the cook. Hey, listen, I got no job. Like, this is my job, blah, blah, blah. This is all I'm making right now. Can you spare some food? He goes, go see the manager. Go to the manager. He's like, can you spare some food, man? I'm like, I really need something to eat. Like, that's all. I can eat here, but I'd love to take something home. I see a bunch of stuff getting thrown out. He's like, oh, by all means, man. We're going to throw things at the end. Whatever we throw out at the end of the night, it's yours. Take it. Take it in whatever form you has, man. So I was doing that, and then what was I doing? I was doing that and then giving it to the other poor people that are around me that had also no chicken. I ate chicken for like 8 months straight. Chicken and fries. That's all I had for 8 months straight. But it was that. It was just like, where else are you going to go? There's nothing else for you to do. And I didn't do anything bad. I didn't like get fired from a job. I didn't steal. I just ran out of money. I was on my own. My parents had needed $10,000 at the moment in time. I gave them all that I had. I had a car and then I had meat. That's all I was run down to. And then I still had to go to college and all this other stuff. So I think it's understanding that all the trauma builds who you are. At the end of the day, man, I tell my mother all the time, she apologizes. I'm like, what are you apologizing for? I love me in the way that I've turned out. Man, I'm screwed up. I got all kinds of issues. But at the end of the day, though, the person I've built and the person I'm trying to teach my kids to be is a much different story than what I got handed with no explanations. Most of us back in the day, you were just giving your story and you were like, oh, screw it, just make it happen. It's your fault. Like, and there was no like, hey, Dad, I'm feeling kind of weird. I'm like, man up and get out of here. Like I got to work. That's the way it was. There was no this communication. But that's all it is, though. And the success I see, it's just because I'm persistent. If tomorrow everything would go to zero again, I just would be persistent all over again. I just find something else to be persistent in. But it's the anchors and the release that really kind of make the difference for you guys.
No, you're going to be successful no matter what, even if you go to zero. The confidence in yourself that you've built up over the years. I just want to thank you for that. I think everyone needs to hear that. And I look forward to the comments that we get about this and from people who probably can relate to you, to maybe those who needed to hear that, the hard truth of what it takes, and maybe the cheat code of, hey, it's all your fault and you can fix it. That's liberating, right?
Well, it is, man. At the end of the day, look, who's judging you other than you? Let all the others judge. It doesn't really matter, man. Like, it was funny when I was in the corporate space, I would sit across guys that had all these PhD degrees and all these, it was crazy. And they would come in here and tell me about their life experiences. And I internally was laughing hysterically. Like, live a quarter in my shoes and let's see how you turned out. You know what I'm saying? And it was funny. I would always compare. And then it got to a point of like, why? They're like, why? Like, my story is my story. My struggle is my struggle. Like I said, I know people that are way more successful than I am that had worse, like 400 times worse than my situation. One of my closest friend, the godfather of my children, like his story will make you cry in an instant. Like within listening to 5 minutes of his story, there is no human being compassionate on this universe that you won't break out. He is the greatest father I've ever seen, period. I've never seen a father at that capability. His children are amazing. He is an incredible father. And if you understood where he came from, you're like, oh my God, how is that even possible? That's not even logical. You know what I'm saying? So I understand everybody's at a different point, and some people just don't have the support that they need. You got YouTube, you got self-motivating books, you got podcasts like this, you got so much things that you can just tap into and just listen for a little bit and just give yourself grace, man. We all are screwed up. We all kind of mess up. Um, Technology's hard. Automations are hard. No, they're not. They're just, you just have to be consistent. Ads are hard. I think ads are hard. Dimitri's like a whiz, like copywriting. I'm a dyslexic. You asked me to write my way out of a paragraph. There is no freaking way. But will I sit there until I get it right? I will. I will. I have no problem doing it. But am I going to be ever the best at it? No. But again, like I could just sit there and stand not to do it, or just like screw it. Let me just see what happens. Can only fail. That's the only thing that you got going against you.
Nuno, real quick, I share your pain, your experience in corporate America, making the transition from corporate America to being an entrepreneur, relying on yourself. And so there's other guys and women out there who are like us, or they're stuck in that cubicle and they're stuck at that meeting where they know they don't want to be. And they're saying the corporate jargon because that's what you're supposed to say. And they know they just hate this shit. They hate it.
Synergy.
Oh gosh, we're a family. Um, what feedback, what advice do you have for that person right now who's sitting in their cubicle? They hate their life. They know they're meant for something bigger and better. What advice do you have for that person right now?
Yeah, well, and it's funny. Like, I love this question. The advice is simple. You just said it, that you don't belong here and you're meant for something bigger. So it's just that you got to accept that, and you are. Now, a lot of people will go for that quick, like multi-million. I'm going to make millions of dollars tomorrow. As long as you get out of that cloud and all that bullshit that everybody's trying to feed you. As much as I love it, and look, it's a great kind of like dream, and stop dreaming and just start acting. Move forward, right? So my biggest motto, like I told you before, now you can kind of understand why my motto is always move forward, because whatever you don't want to do is stay stuck. So because if you can just move, like today, I want to get out of here. I want to build a business. Okay, so do something about it. What is it that you're going to do? Don't make it so hard to catch. Don't make it like I'm going to make $1 million tomorrow, because you're not. How about, hey, I have a garage. I know there's some business you can start in the garage. Let's start a garage business. Let's start like something like, it's funny. I'm like obsessed with microgreens lately. I don't know what it is. Like I grow my own microgreens, my kids. We have a blast. It's super cheap. Anybody can do it. Man, I can't garden for crap, but I can do that. Start that. You're a great designer. Start designing. You're a great builder. Start building. You're a great freaking mechanic. Start doing something with mechanics. Do it in the back seat of like wherever you are. Like, meaning I worked corporate. I came home and I worked on my project. Work on your weekends. Get that stuff up and going, but just do something. If you're sitting there and like, I'm great for more, but you're sitting there, that's the whole point. Like,
Yeah. What about Netflix?
yeah, there you go. Netflix. Man, my Netflix is YouTube. Just because there's not a thing that I don't want to learn how to do. You know what I'm saying? So you have a lot less excuses than I did when I had. There was no phone a friend. There was no YouTubes and everything else. Man, you had to learn things by like looking on forums, later dark nights of like, how do I change a period on a website? And you're like, this big long form with 400 words, like 1,000 responses and words to try to figure that crap out. Those days are long gone. You can YouTube and search that thing and have it in 10 seconds, or use AI to help answer some of these questions. The other day, no joke, there's a new AI called Manus. I was joking around with this microgrid thing. It must have been like 11:30 at night. I'm like, let me just put my idea and give it to this AI and see what it can do. I wrote a paragraph of my idea for franchising and building this whole microgreens where everybody and their mom can do this thing. I left and came back the next day. I hit enter and I just left. I walk into, I'm not exaggerating, a 246-page manual on how to do this, sales metrics, projections, and a website. I was like, okay, good. I got another business idea that I can like go out and do. But for the people that are sitting in the corporate, this is the way I did it. I literally did it step by step. I found first something that I wanted to do. Then I went and looked for clients. Looking for clients can mean anything to anybody. I started working for free to learn websites, meaning found somebody that wanted a website as a favor. I said, you know what? I'm learning it. Let me work for free and everything else. Site came out so good, the person gave me $400. It was like 20 years ago. Mind you, that was a lot of money back then. All right. I was like, crap, awesome. Oh my God, I got a business here. The next one was a little saltier, $600, but took about me 3 weeks to finish. Again, back in the day, this shit was a little harder than it is now. And it's just started going. And then I started getting customers and then other customers from other customers. And then I started doing it. It got to the point where I was making money in the agency comfortably, 6 figures, while still working this, supporting my parents, paying bills, building a house, building a family. And I just started matching my income. And even then, when I matched my income, I had a staff. I was building the agency out. I was like, do I really need to leave my 9 to 5? I got to count this on autopilot. Then I got greedy. Then I was like, you know what? I like the money here. We're living pretty comfortably. Let me do this for a little while. Well, that turned into 10 years. Don't do what I did. but I was comfortable. I bought a house. We paid off 2 cars. We had no debt. You know, my mom lives comfortably upstairs. We built an addition. Like, I built all of that while that was going on. And then eventually got to the point where my wife, literally, I'll never forget it, walks in the door. She's like, I've had enough. And I'm like, whoa. I immediately thought that was going in the like worst direction possible. When I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, where is this going? She's like, no, of you working all the time. He's like, I need my husband back and your children need their father. And I was like, and then she kind of hit the little gut punch, which is like, remember what what you never wanted to become, right? He's like an absentee father who's not around, right? And I'm like, all right, well, that was a rude awakening. And then there goes a corporate job. And here I am now, running the 3 businesses and gaining time on the weekends, getting time at night to do whatever I need to do with my kids. But you got to take that first step. So anybody sitting in that cubicle, if you're staring at the cubicle and you're hating your life and you're miserable about it, if you don't take the first step of like, just start talking about it, start writing it down, start like taking the first action, try building something on your own. If you're going into the digital space, I repaired phones. I thought it was going to be a great thing. I love mechanics. I was like, oh, let me figure that out. I did that. I was driving to people's homes in a suit, in a banker suit, not exaggerating, fixing people's phones. When I walked through the door, they're like, I'm here to fix your phone. They're like, what? In a suit? And I'm like, yeah, it's a kind of new service that we have going on. and like, I'm totally not exaggerating. That's where my mentality was. Because again, it was just me trying to take the first step and taking any kind of momentum. So if you guys are out there and you're going through that mental state, just break out of it, man. Just take one little small step. I'm telling you, your life will change. And if you need ideas or how-tos, like I said, I have a YouTube channel free, absolutely free of massive knowledge of stuff that you can take on and make a career out.
Yeah, and by the way, Nuno's YouTube channel, this is the type of stuff that 5 years ago you'd have to pay probably $10,000 to get access to, and 10 years ago you couldn't even find this information, much less 15, 20 years ago. So the fact that it's available and it's free is insane. You guys need to absolutely take advantage. Watch these videos. Don't watch your Netflix. Watch Nuno. Nuno is now your new Netflix. We're going to include the link, of course, in the description. And the people who want to get out of corporate world, let's just be honest right now. Most people are not going to take that first step. They're just going to complain. But there are go-getters, and it seems like there's more opportunities than ever for go-getters. Maybe not quite like you, because you're an exceptional guy. But the go-getters, and you've trained a lot of people that are probably go-getters like this. I mean, where are they going? What are they doing? What should they be doing?
Again, a lot of the people that we trained, I told you, 7-year-old approaching 80, like 7-year-old, 80-year-old grandmother picked this up. My wife, who's probably the most technically like non-person, like she hates tech, she's learning it. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing that you guys can't really go out there and try to set to do. What I'm telling you is like, you can start so many things with such small actions. Everybody thinks it's this monumental thing. Oh, I got to go build a massive. No, you don't. Build a page, then build another page. If you want to build, like I said, I repaired cell phones in a suit. I'm not exaggerating. Like legitimately, my wife is like, this is the dumbest thing you've ever done. And I'm like, probably, but it was making me like $1,000 every week, a couple $1,000 extra in your pocket. I don't know about any corporate person. Imagine a couple extra $1,000 in your pocket a week. Would you not six?
Doesn't seem that stupid. No,
it felt stupid going in there, and you're like, I can tell you stories forever. But the point of the matter is that you kind of go in there, and for all the people, like, I just want to make sure people understand, like, every person, and Chris and Dimitri can account for this, the most successful people we've met have the most amount of trauma that I've ever heard or understood. Meaning, the more crap you go through, the better your mind thinks, because you're always in the problem solving stage. Because you've made it this far and you had a tough background, your problem solving skills mentally are like next dimension. They're like beyond everything else. And if you just understood that and give yourself a little bit of credit, because if you got to the point where you're at, having the lifestyle that you had, imagine what you can do if you put all those problem solving skills that have gotten you to survive this long and accelerate it and put it to something like AI, like anything, mechanics, like robotics, anything that man, if I got this far, I can learn this crap. And that's the way you got to think of it. You know what I'm saying? Because if you just figured that like turn switch of taking that, all that negative, like, man, resentment and like tough, like, woe is me, my life is crap and everything else. Again, every single entrepreneur, we know people that lived in cars that are multimillionaires. I know a guy that used to shake because he was afraid of like sharing his credit card at the food line, and he's a billionaire. A billionaire. To this day, it's hysterical. He pulls out his card and his hand still shakes. And I'm like, are you serious? I literally called him. He's like, he goes, to this day, 10 years of being the most poorest I've ever been in my lifetime, when I was afraid that the card was not going to go through, when it was come to buying groceries for my newborn. To this day, his hand shakes. And if people like that can turn around, and they've come some pretty awful upbringings and everything else, there is nothing that's holding you back other than you and taking that first initial step. And Dimitri's right. Half of you will listen to this and not do anything and still sitting there and bitch about it. Versus if you're just that 1% that takes that initial like moving forward step, even if it's like an inch, man, your whole life changes in a matter of a heart. Mine did the second I accepted it. The second I turned all that resentment, again, I forgave my father. I dropped all these anchors of like self-doubt and everything else. And don't get me wrong, there's not a day in my life that I don't wake up and going, what the freaking hell am I doing? I don't deserve this. This is it. But those are my demons I got to face every day. You know? So you're not alone in that. Nobody is. There's not the day that I woke up and think I'm an imposter. I'm like, whose life am I living? but that's just normal. And when you get more successful, it gets even worse. Because then you think it's going to like drop every day now, because guess what? The people that live that trauma, we're waiting for the next trauma. And the biggest creators are the biggest destroyers, which is the wildest thing ever. Because the more you create, the quicker you destroy. And you destroy because you want chaos, because that's what you're used to. That was another big concept that everybody took a while. It's hysterical. Things will be going great. And here comes Nuno. Negative person goes like, let me just throw a grenade in this beautiful, passionate, wonderful happiness that's happening, and let me just make things a little bit more complicated to give myself the dopamine to bring me back into chaos. Because man, people that grow up in travel, we love chaos. We love chaos because that's where we strive, because that's what we know. So if you just understand that you have a power that more so than anybody else, that you can take that and you can propel it forward to your business and to you, the second you make that shift, your whole life changes.
I know we're running out of time. Just a really quick comment, Nuno. I want to get your feedback. Just a real quick comment. You're talking about using this trauma as fuel to propel yourself forward. And then one of the things, at least speaking for myself, things that held me back, the anchors that held me back, those anchors that held me back once served me. So my hypervigilance and my anxiety served me in an environment of chaos. So they protected me at one point. They were useful, but in order to move forward, it's no longer useful to me. And so a lot of the things you were saying made me realize that. And I want to get your thoughts on that just briefly, if you don't mind.
But you just said it though. They no longer. And I'm gonna change your mindset a little bit and really think deeply about this one. Those things can still serve you. Just propel them forward and use them as an ability versus a disadvantage. All those things, the anxiety, the caution, and everything else, if it's transformed and pushed into a different area in your life that's going to serve you now, business deals, understanding like the perspective of like how things are operating, slowing down time. If you guys ever notice people that have trauma, it's hysterical. Let me give you an example. Cooking in the backyard, the barbecue lights on fire. Everybody in my family goes into sheer panic. They're running. I come over and I literally just turn it off. Why? My trauma kicked in and everything slowed down. I'm like, I got this. This is my land. I come in here and whoop, just turned it off. And everybody looks at me in astonishment, like I solved world hunger. And because my ability surpassed into my superpower the second I let it. And that's what I'm saying. All your disadvantages and the things that you think are holding you back, once you drop it as an anchor, use it as a propellant. And if you can figure out that math and that science, your body chemistry starts changing. Because now all of a sudden, all those dopamines and everything else that you're getting a hit from being depressed, from the anxiety, because those are all dopamines. They're also all emotions that you're craving, because that's what you're used to. If you start propelling them and using them for good, and you're making it a superpower, then all of a sudden things change. We go on vacation. My wife is a super planner, man, to the T. She's got like, we're going to go do this, this, and this. Guess what happens when something goes wrong? What happens to my wife? She's done. Immediately tears, things start happening. I've learned over time, all I have to say is, are you going to relinquish control? And once she says yes, superpower kicks in. We're going to go on the fly now, man. Let's get in the car. This is where we're going to go. Boom, boom, boom. All of a sudden, the complete turnaround. Superpower used to be my biggest thing. Always in the precautionary, oh my God, what's going to happen next? Survival mode, survival mode. Now I just I'm not at that survival mode most of the times. When it needs to activate, it activates. And if I feel like I need to push it, I go straight into survival mode. I've reduced my times when things need to be done. So it gives me that I got 4 hours to make this happen. And that old school survival mode and that predatory mode now goes into propellant mode. Because I now know what my body's capable of and how my stress levels are going to work. So you see what I'm saying? If you just learn how to work with some of these things and don't think of it as anchors for sure and releasing them, because now you know that they're there and you kind of got some control over them. But the real true superpower is, how can I turn all my negatives and make them propellants? How can I fuel whatever I'm got going on? And if you can figure that out, Chris, I'm telling you, it's game changing. You'll go from here to here and not even understand how you did it. And you're like, oh, I know how I did it.
That's an incredible reframe, and use your anchors as your propellers now. And anyway, the whole mindset discussion that we just had with you, Nuno, incredible. Nuno, also incredible entrepreneur and AI thought leader, marketing expert, email and lead generation. You got to learn from this guy, and you just learned quite a bit about mindset from him, and what a incredible story. And I think it all came around. Maybe we'll talk about it another time, but we read about you got a house on an island, which is really cool. And Nuno, we're so glad to have you on. We're going to have all the links to your YouTube channel, to how to get to work with you, all in the descriptions. And we're so glad to have you on. Thank you so much.
No, it's an absolute pleasure, guys. And again, you guys are good human beings too. So anybody not watching this show is out of their mind. So thank you again for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Nuno.